Welcome to the Recruitment People podcast, the place where employers and candidates unite to uncover the art of successful recruitment. Hi, I'm Kelly Charity, a recruiter and agency owner with over 2 decades of recruitment experience. In this podcast series, I'm going to dive deep into the heart of hiring and job seeking, sharing actionable insights, expert advice, and of course, a little bit of fun along the way. Whether you're looking to sharpen your hiring practices or navigate your career path, we've got you covered. So let's get started and unlock the secrets to recruitment success together. Welcome to the Recruitment People podcast. Today we're going to be talking all things leadership with Em Pescott, our speaker from Promotable You. Em Pescott is a former HR leader turned career and leadership coach, and she's on a mission to help professionals land jobs that they love, lead with confidence and thrive without burnout. Emma combines 15 years of HR and leadership experience and has a deep understanding of what it really takes to move from being stuck to successful in today's work world. She's also the creator of Career Accelerator and the Thriving Leaders Club, and she's obsessed with helping mainly women now finally feel seen, valued and in control of their careers. Thank you for joining us. We're going to be talking about leadership today. Yeah. The topic, which is, you've got the role, now what, what no one tells you about becoming a leader. So, for new leaders, let's talk about that. Or maybe you can just give us a bit of a background about you as well, Em.
Sure.
How we met.
Yes. Well, thank you for having me. Well, I think we met in, 2017?
It was several years ago.
It was a while ago,
yes.
Yeah. And I was a HR professional working in the FMCG industry and had transitioned when I had my kids into my own business. I wanted to create, my own career blueprint of, being able to fit in life and motherhood and working.
Yeah. And as all mothers want to do. Yeah, it's a difficult one.
So I created the Career Accelerator initially, which was really around helping women and men, but transition into their next role and all the challenges that come up with understanding, well, what do they even want to do now? What are they passionate about? What are their underlying drivers and motivators?
Yeah.
And then how the heck to actually make that happen? And then it's kind of morphed over the years into working mostly with leaders in the Thriving Leaders Club. So really kind of up-leveling what that next level of impact is for them. But especially, we do have a focus on women in that program around not burning out.
Okay. Yeah. Because obviously transitioning into leadership, which is probably where we're going to focus more on today. But I think we can probably touch on becoming a good leader and what it is to be a good leader. Yeah. So you talk about the identity shift, hidden pressures, all of those things. So for somebody maybe wanting to get into leadership, what would you recommend? What to transition?
I think it's really interesting because I think there's some people who think that they aren't good leaders but actually end up being really great leaders.
Yeah.
And I think the identity shift is usually around when people feel that they have to have these special traits or this special type of personality to be a leader, where it's actually very much a learned skill.
Yeah. Okay.
And so there are just certain things that you can do within being a leader that anyone can do. And yes, there'll be some people that are more that naturally gravitate toward that. Yeah. But everyone can, but also knowing the difference of maybe that's not actually what you want either. Yeah. And then that's okay to be an individual contributor. So I think the whole identity shift is understanding, what do you want long term? Where do you actually want to make an impact? And if it's with people, great. Leadership can be learned. Yeah.
Because we find, when we're speaking with our clients, for example, you'll have an amazing sales person, for example, out on the road, really, really good at sales. Natural progression is to become the leader, and when they're in the leadership position, they're actually not a good leader, or they actually don't like that role because what they actually want to do is sell. And now when you're managing people, you miss the transactional selling that you're perhaps doing, so absolutely. So how do you identify, I suppose, whether you're going to like leadership? What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, that's really interesting. I think it's really understanding, and there's lots of different ways that you can do it. But I think really kind of getting a deep understanding of what actually drives and motivates you.
Right.
And if you look at it from the example of a salesperson, if they're like, a lot of that time is like the thrill of the sale.
Absolutely.
Like the thrill of the follow-up and the yes. And also they're very much tied to a financial outcome. So it's more like a competitive different environment. And if that is what actually drives and motivates them, well, then putting them in a role, it depends, because you can be one of two people. One is that you can then facilitate that for your team, and that becomes the exciting thing.
Yes.
Or you just really want to do that for yourself. And I think stepping back and actually doing a bit of an assessment on what it is that actually really drives you is the biggest thing.
Right. So I suppose for leaders out there, or people considering leadership, is to be self-aware. What is your motivational factors in terms of what's driving you as to whether you'll even enjoy that kind of role.
Absolutely.
So many times I've spoken with sales managers who want to go back into sales because
they often lose money.
Well, there's the money element for sure.
Yes.
But also they're not on the ground with the people.
Yeah.
They're more in an office now, and they're writing reports and signing off things, and they just don't want to be doing the people side of it. So it's really interesting, isn't it? So for somebody that's now stepped into leadership, perhaps new into a leadership role, what can you tell us about that?
It's such an interesting transition, especially if you've been at a peer level. Yes. And then you're now managing your peer level.
That's the most difficult, right?
So part of me sometimes thinks it's easier to get a leadership role in a new organisation where you have no one knows you and you're starting from scratch. Yeah. But I think the biggest thing for new leaders is to really the first thing is to build a relationship with their people.
Yes.
And to really understand how to communicate and understand who they're working with and what their personalities are. The work will get done. Anyone can manage a workload. There's two kind of things that we think about here. One is manager, where you're managing tasks, workload, output.
Yes.
And then there's leading people around understanding, well, what work do they enjoy doing? What do they like doing outside of work? How are you going to get the best out of them? How do you communicate and set the right accountabilities? How do you delegate the right types of work for them that's going to... There's all of these things that they often forget. They kind of go straight into task management.
Task mode,
and it's not about
the outcomes. Yeah, because then there's no relationship, is there? So they're coming in as the new leader, but actually what they're doing is managing. All they're doing is overseeing the work. Which you end up being tied to anyway. You just end up being someone who manages a task list. And that's not a rewarding or fulfilling place to lead from. So if you're a new leader in your current organisation, so peer-to-peer, your colleagues are now your subordinates.
Yes.
How does one navigate that?
You need to have some really good upfront conversations around the challenges. So I would sit down with the people that you're reporting into and just call it as it is. Hey, you know what? This could be weird for a little bit. I'm trying to navigate this. This is a new role for me. This is a new relationship for us. Don't pretend like it's going to be the same. It's not going to be.
No, it's not going to be the same.
Because now you have pressures from senior leaders. You are now the intermediary between them and your people. And if you don't get those initial conversations and the resetting of those relationships up front, your people underneath you will either resent you, end up as where people end up with like a bit of a toxic culture. You don't feel supported in your role as a leader, and then all of a sudden you think, oh gosh, I'm not a great manager here. You've just got to be upfront with those conversations, but that's the hardest. Most people don't do it.
No. I think being promoted internally above your peers is probably the trickiest thing. So does your program support people in that?
So Thriving Leaders Club specifically deals with all of those like day-to-day challenges of leaders, because not only are you managing a workload, you're also still accountable for your own workload as well. Of course. You've then got to be more involved in strategy and all of these other things. And so a lot of the time you don't know how to navigate these things. And so we, make sure that we've got a community where each week you can get that support that's unbiased. And I suppose whether you're a new leader or within your own... whether you've had a promotion or whether you've gone to a new organisation, there has to be probably an identity shift in terms of who you are now. How do you navigate that identity change? It's hard because it also depends on what baggage you have. I kind of call it this thing where we've all got this like imaginary backpack full of like limiting belief rocks. And so for women, it's a lot of, I'm not good enough.
Yes.
I don't have the right education.
Right.
All this kind of imposter syndrome kind of stuff. So the identity shift is really that you deserve to be there.
Yeah.
And that this is your new level.
Yes. Yeah.
And when you go into a new role thinking that you have to continually prove yourself and that you're not good enough and that you shouldn't be there, and especially if you're getting paid considerably more, the expectation on you can be really stifling. This is just what I'm experiencing with
what you're
people
hearing
at the moment.
from people.
It's a really interesting thing where it's like the identity shift is, well, you actually get to choose how you show up.
Yeah.
You get to choose what type of leader you are, and it doesn't need to be dictated by how you felt in the past or what you've been labelled in the past or how other people in the past have thought about you. And it's a really hard shift for people because it's very much like a confidence issue at that point.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Have you seen people thrive having gone through your course, for example, and come out the other side? Can you give an example of, I don't know, a change in someone perhaps?
We do a lot of work because I love coaching and that's my favourite thing, but I also love using some really cool tools. And so we use a specific tool called LSI, it stands for Lifestyle Inventory through Human Synergistics. And what that does, it gives us a snapshot of how a leader will think, how they make decisions, how they behave, how they react to things. And so we use, to be able to make that transition, we get a really good understanding of going, well, where does this stuff come from in the first place? And from there, then we start working on, we just create a development plan to just work on one specific thing that's going to move the needle, because you're not going to change overnight. But if it's like, you know, a particular confidence issue for whatever reason, we just start there. And so we see leaders who feel like they don't have a seat at the table. Make a couple of shifts around how they show up, how they behave in meetings, how they communicate. And as soon as you get like a where you feel like you've won at something, it builds that confidence. So we're just layering upon layer. So sometimes it's like this big aha moment.
Too much all at one time where people are like,
just one thing. Just one thing. And you just layer it on until all of a sudden the confidence is, they look back and they think, oh gosh, why was that ever an issue? Like it's just such a smooth kind of transition. Sometimes people can have big ahas and go, oh, this is the big shift I need. For most of us, that doesn't happen. It's just, you just keep persisting on the things that are actually holding you back.
I remember going into my first leadership role. It was actually within an organisation where I was the friends of the people I was now managing, which was the most difficult role I've probably ever experienced as a new leader. And I found it very difficult to transition from being a friend, you know, sort of having that boundary to step away from being a friend now to being the manager and leader. I can't remember how I navigated that. I was very stressed. But you know, for somebody doing that, how do you make that distinction between I'm still your friend, but
it's all this is the thing, it's all in conversation. So often we just make assumptions about things. Right? I'm going to make an assumption that I'm now in this role so you understand my priorities. That's not how it works. It's having those conversations that say, you know what? Oh, I'm going to be, these are going to be my accountabilities now and where I'm going to need to be focusing. And we're also friends. And there might be things that I can't share with you. Because this is my role now. Everything can be solved in conversation,
communication.
And it's the one thing that people don't do. They shy away from it. They don't want to pick up the phone. They don't want to set a meeting and have a hard conversation. And it doesn't even need to be that hard. It just feels hard. And
I remember well.
It is the number one thing. And I think just bringing some humility to it, like, you know what, I don't know how this is going to go. I don't know. This is like weird for me and weird for you. You know, and then reset the expectations. So how can we best work together? How are we going to still remain friends and where I can, you know, still be able to lead this? What's going to work for you? What's going to work for me? Learn each other's styles.
That's really good. What do you think makes a great leader?
Someone who is curious. Right, and the reason I say that,
that's an interesting answer, Emma.
Someone is curious, because I think a lot of leaders will jump to assumptions for things, right? And I'm talking about curious in terms of for their people and why people behave the way they do.
Yeah.
And so, for instance, the best leaders I've seen, when something goes wrong, they don't jump to a conclusion of why that thing's gone wrong and address the wrongness in the moment. They're like, they sit back and they go, that's really interesting to me. I wonder what it was that had my employee do that thing.
Yeah.
I wonder what's going on for them. I wonder what I might have done to contribute to that. Let me just go find out. And they come from a place of curiosity, rather than a place of judgment. And
or accusation.
But even in their own behaviour, right? As well as, I'm really curious as to why I found it really hard to just be really clear with someone about what I wanted from them. What is it about it? Oh, that's right. Oh, I have this incessant need to be liked. And if I give them too much work, then, just curious about their own behaviour, curious about other people's behaviour, but also curious around how could we do things better? How can we, that's really interesting that you do that way and I do it this way. I wonder if what's that? What is about that? I find too many leaders come in and it's like they do things their way or they give over too much power to their employees. But if you can just sit back and kind of commentate your own leadership journey and just get curious.
But I mean, that's a full-time job in itself, right?
Isn't it?
Sitting back and being curious and being self-aware and considering, the bigger picture, what's going on here, what's happened here. Because in the workplace, a lot of people don't have time to sit back and go, what happened here? How can we approach this?
They're just like, should have been this way. And
it should have been done. Why have you not done it? Very, reactive to things.
And I think the other thing about like just having that like curious nature is that you actually don't need to be a manager to have that. That isn't anybody's trait. Anyone can actually be like a self-leader and be a leadership in their own position. And this is where I think a lot of like natural leaders are. That they just kind of really reflect, look at the whole situation, and it doesn't matter that they're leading people or not.
How do you think, if you're in a leadership role now, for example, how do you think, a good leader can, I suppose, sit back and say, am I a good leader? How can I improve on what it is that I'm doing? I know that there's performance reviews and I know that they can do 360s and get feedback and those sorts of things. But is there anything else that people can do to say, I'm not sure I'm a good leader. How can I improve?
So we have all of our, especially in our Thriving Leaders, we have everybody do a leadership audit. And so I basically have all I have all the categories that say what great leaders do across all different kind of scenarios within leadership. And we do a bit of a self-rating, because I think even if a 360, if you don't believe the feedback, whether it be positive or negative, it actually doesn't change behaviour. You can only focus on
people not believe the feedback?
Oh, many.
Really?
Many. Well, most of the time it's they're feedback resistant for the positive.
Right.
So they're like, I keep getting told that I'm a great manager and a great leader, but I just don't see it. They're often feedback resistant.
Oh, I was thinking about the feedback that might be negative. Rather than the positive stuff.
Most of them will take that on.
Oh, okay.
It's interesting. Yeah. Most of them will take the negative on, but don't often believe the good. Depending on the personality of person. Men and women are very different.
Of course,
Men will often believe their own opinion and not the opinion of others. And women are the other way around.
Well,
but you basically just do a self-audit, and then you just also have to connect it with, well, what outcomes are you trying to drive in your role in your organisation? You always connect it back to a business goal. The best leaders are not just there for people. They're there to drive an outcome in the business. And there's this real synergy between the two that you have to make sure that you connect. Otherwise, you're just a nice person who's leading a team and you're nice versus someone who can really drive an outcome and bring the team on the journey with you. That's kind of what a good leader does.
If you're in a leadership role and you've got, everything comes from the top, right? So if you're the conduit from the top, driving the business strategies, middle management, driving then the people, the doers, the tasks that need to be driven. How do you navigate as a leader a bad culture that's coming from the top? So you're the go-between and you're a great leader or an average leader, but how do you not become the same as the people at the top, but create your own team that can deliver and are happy despite the fact that perhaps a bigger organisation is not.
Okay, I've got two things about that. One is that if you're not enjoying the culture at the top and you don't believe in their strategy and their vision, I'd be looking for another role, right?
Good advice there.
Because I think it's really hard to, with conviction, lead your team on that strategy. What I often see is a culture of the middle manager sharing information with the team about, I know the strategy's crap, but we're just going to have to do it anyway.
Right.
And they kind of side with their employees versus... Right, and that's why I say if you really don't believe in it and you're unhappy with the direction that they're going, it's not the role for you. Find something else that is.
Right.
Because the way that you need to operate for your team is that they need to feel safe, that they're on the right path and they know what they're doing. It's kind of like a toddler setting boundaries. Right? And so as a leader, especially in the middle, you may not necessarily agree with everything.
Yes.
But you need to bring that down to your team in a way that doesn't discredit the people up top, because your people need to feel safe in that strategy, because everyone has different feelings of safety in a business, whether it be security financially or security on the longevity of a company or their role, etc. And so
it's really interesting.
The best leaders are the ones who really communicate the why. Why, even if they don't agree with it. They like, here's why the business is going in this direction, and here's what it means for our team, and this is what we're going to do about it. They don't bitch and moan about
that stuff.
The strategy is not the right one. They just get on with it, and they protect their team. And they protect the morale of their team.
That's interesting, because I've seen leaders, I've worked for leaders who what's going on above. And it does infiltrate to below. And the middle management are doing what you've said not to do, which is they are kind of protecting the team, but in a way that is agreeing with the team that, we know it's a useless strategy, we know. But being in agreement isn't actually the right way to do it.
No, you need to really offer them this is the why we're doing it. And we may not agree with everything, but here's the higher purpose. And here's the thing, if you really don't agree with it, well then do your damnedest to get promoted and have a seat at that table and change your damn strategy.
Well, that leads on to a good question, actually. So if you're in a role, whether you're a leader or not a leader, and you're wanting to step into leadership, so you're trying to prove yourself or do the things that need to happen, how can somebody get noticed, get a seat at the table?
It's interesting. I was just I'm later today running a masterclass on like relationships and networking. I call it the power circle. And it's like, who is in your power circle? Because visibility is the key thing for promotion. It's not how experienced you are, how much, how skilled you are, all of the things. It's around how visible are you and to the right people, and do they know your intention? The biggest thing that I say to people, if you want to absolutely skyrocket your career, in the tea room or on a Zoom call or wherever it is, because now obviously we're all working all over the shop, is to let the people who are the decision makers of the roles, your CEOs, your COOs, let them know your career ambition. Hey, you know what? In 12 months, I'd love to be in this role. And it's on my development plan. Right? And in a way that feels right to you to say it. Let people know, and then make sure that you are visible in doing all the things to make that happen. Take on some comments. Be asked as part of your development plan to be invited to one-up meetings. You've just got to be visible to the right people, and that is what skyrockets. Hard work goes unnoticed.
It's true.
Hard work goes unnoticed, because everyone knows someone who's been promoted that is not as talented as them.
But it's because they're known.
They're known. It's the biggest strategy.
And I mean, we've obviously touched on, if you're not on the journey and you're not wanting to, as that middle manager perhaps, look at the strategy, lead the team, look for a new role, look for a new role. We're going to talk about that in our next topic. So I look forward to having that conversation with you.
Awesome.
Is there anything else or any advice you could give somebody that's maybe just landed a leadership role or want to finish off on something this topic?
I think in terms of even if you've landed it or you're in it, the biggest thing to build around you is a community. and a network of people that understand your challenges, that can help you solve problems. And when you look at it from, you know, like the power circle, for instance, the people who can be your sponsors in terms of, like, you know, advocate for you to go into different roles or get different learning opportunities, but have the people around you that are really going to advocate for you and support you is the biggest thing.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. I hope you enjoyed it with Emma from Promotable You today.
Thanks.
Thank you so much,
You're
Emma.
welcome.